Next, I'm going to demonstrate how to add samplers to the toolbox. So in the toolbox, every pollutant you monitor for is its own sampler. So if I have an ozone monitor at my site and a PM 2.5 monitor at my site, each one of those is a separate sampler. And that also goes for my meteorological data. However, for my meteorological data, I might have several probes, like say I monitor for wind speed and relative humidity and ambient air temperature. Those are all in their own sampler as a met pollutant. And we're going to demonstrate that because that's a lot easier to see rather than talk about. So from the new users fast track, I select add samplers and I go ahead to make this form smaller. And in my air program, I have at site S46, I have an ozone monitor, I have a BAM that monitors for PM 2.5, and I also have a meteorological sampler. And I'm going to start with my PM 2.5 monitor, and the first field on this form is the sampler serial number. And really all this field is what you want to call your sampler. You don't have to use an actual sampler serial number. You can use whatever is most comfortable for you. It's more important to enter a sampler's identification that makes sense and relates to the pollutant that's being monitored. And you can also use letters and as well as numbers in this field. So I'm going to go ahead and start entering my PM 2.5 sampler data, and I'm going to call my sampler INPM25. And it was placed at the site on February 1st, 2013. I tab over and this has a drop down arrow, so I'll click on that to bring up the list. And it says, is this sampler located at site S46 or S98? And I know it's located currently at S46, so I'll go ahead and click on that. And then I'll tab over to the pollutant field, and this also has a drop down list. And now we can see there's two options for PM 2.5. So we've got PM 25 continuous and PM 2.5 filter. So when you're collecting data with a BAM or a TOM and it's hourly data, you want to make sure you select PM 2.5 continuous. The PM 2.5 filter, that's for data that you collect with filters, and then you send it to a weighing lab to be analyzed, and the concentration is calculated. So for continuous data, it's very important that you select PM 2.5 continuous. So I'll select that, and the sampler type field also has a drop down arrow, and it is a required field since it's yellow. And I've got two options. I've got primary and co-located. If you only have one sampler at the site like I do, then that's your primary. If you had two samplers at the site monitoring both for the same pollutant, one would be your primary sampler and one would be your co-located sampler. But in my case, I only got the one sampler for PM 2.5, so I select primary. And I'll tab and go into the monitor manufacturer field. I actually don't have this information with me right now, so I'm going to click tab again to leave that field blank. And since it's a white field, that's an optional field, and that's okay. Although we do recommend that you fill in as much data as you can in these optional fields, but you can always go back in and fill in that data too. So I'm going to leave it blank for now. And for my personnel, I enter this data. So I'm going to select myself, and I have two options on the bottom of my screen. I've got the Save Sampler Data and Continue Data Entry button here, and the Save Sampler Data and Exit Data Entry button here. So since I have more samplers to enter, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Save Sampler Data and Continue Data Entry button. And when I do this, we're going to get something slightly different than we have gotten for the personnel data and for the site data. So we get this message box, and this is the first time you've seen this message box in the toolbox, but you'll be seeing it a lot more when you import your data. So it says I'm about to run an append query. Basically what that means is it's going to add a record to a table. So I'm going to go ahead and click yes, because that's what I wanted to do. And then it tells me I'm about to append one row. Click yes again. And I'm going to get this twice for every sampler that I entered into the toolbox. So for every sampler I enter in the toolbox, I'm going to get 4 of these message boxes, and you need to click yes on each of them. So yes, and then we're back in a blank record, and we're ready to enter our next sampler. So next I'm going to enter my ozone sampler. I enter my sampler serial number, and I'm going to use the same convention and go with IN03 for ozone. And the date it was put at the site is a mandatory field, so I enter data into that field. And again, I click on the drop-down arrow, and it's located at site S46. And my pollutant, I tab over to my pollutant field, select O3 for ozone. Then I tab over to the sampler type, and again, this is the only ozone sampler at this site, so it's a primary sampler. And I don't have my monitor, manufacturer, or model number handy, so I'm going to leave those blank. And I don't have any comments. And I'm going to select myself as the data entry personnel. And then again, since I have one more sampler to enter, my meteorological data sampler, I'm going to click Save Sampler Data and continue data entry. I'm going to get those 4 message boxes about the append query, so I'm going to click yes on each of those after reading them. And now I am in a blank record and ready to enter my sampler serial number for my MET monitor. So I'm going to use the same convention that I've used for my ozone sampler and my PM 2.5 sampler. I'm going to enter IN MET as my sampler serial number, and I enter the date that was placed at the site. And what site is it located at? S46. And I tab over to pollutant, and I know that MET is not considered a pollutant, but it's in the list regardless. So I select MET, and it's the primary sampler because there's no other MET sampler located at the site. And I don't have this monitor manufacturer, monitor model number, and I don't have any comments, and data entry personnel is myself. And since this is the last sampler that I have at my sites, I can click on Save Sampler Data and exit data entry since I want to close this form after I save this sampler. So I'll do that, and I'm going to get those same 4 message boxes about running an append query. So I click yes on each of them after reading them. And my form closes, and this form pops up that I don't need right now, so I'm going to click the exit form button, and I'm back to the new user's fast track form.